that first thing we have to be aware of is hopelessness, because that then drives the communication. When we're stuck in hopelessness as a mindset, that despairing thing, it shows up as annoyance, irritation, prediction of how somebody's going to be, and it's not good. We stop giving the benefit of the doubt. We're snippy, critical, judgmental. We interpret even kind gestures in twisted, sick ways because we're hopeless. And that is the enemy's gotten his arsenal out and he's done his best work when we're in that place. And so we have to recognize that we're in exactly the place he wants us, the enemy. Because then all we can do in hopelessness is take offense. And we're called to not do that.
Welcome to What to Say and How to Say It. Today we are discussing what to do when you feel like giving up. This is the very last part of our love series. This is the verse where God says, love always perseveres. And I'm here with Nina, as always, and we are going to just jump right into it. So we know that marriage these days is getting more challenging. You know, people are marrying later. They're marrying at less rates than they were. They are marrying and not staying married. And so we want to understand why that's happening and what we can do about it. So we're going to discuss what that means in terms of persevering. And when you walk away today, you're going to know how to stick this out. All right. So Nina, what does it mean for you to persevere when you think about that verse?
I think of running the marathon. I've only done one, and I hit mile 20 and I wanted to be done. And a marathon's 26.2 miles. Everything in me hurt. I wanted to quit. And I was going to throw up. I mean, it was just awful. So when I think of marriage, and I've been in places where I've been like mile 20 miserable, we'll call it that, in my marriage. That's not saying anything about my husband, by the way, because we can do our own misery creation on our own. Not that I'm taking full responsibility for that, but the point is that, everybody at some point gets in a space where they're like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't want to do this. I want to quit, or whatever their variety of that is. I have a number of clients that say, I don't want to get a divorce. God hates divorce. I don't want to fail. All these things, but they don't know what else to do.
Right.
And so I love this topic. Love always perseveres. I love the topic because perseverance is something that you don't just get an injection of. It's like patience. You've got to hang on by your fingernails sometimes when everything in you wants to let go. And we make it harder than it is too often. We make it harder than it needs to be. And, that whole white knuckling thing, and, just, we grit our teeth and we hunker down and, but the reality is that the yoke of Christ is easy. The burden's light. And 100% of the time when I've been working at persevering, or I see a client working at persevering, underneath all of that is usually fear or a lack of faith, which, hello, what's the difference there? I don't know, honestly.
Yeah. I know in coaching that comes up a lot. It's that place where you're stuck and it just feels like you've done everything and you are out of ideas. And which, by the way, that's what we are all about. We are focusing on those couples, those believers that have been to the workshops, that have read the books, that have paid the therapist and are still stuck. and conflict. So this is like our bread and butter right here.
Yeah, we get you, folks. We get you, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that place where you're like, I've done it all. And I just, it's not that you don't love the person. It's not that you're not willing to try. You're just kind of out of ideas. And so yeah, I'm curious about what does that look like in communication, when
oh, that's the ugliest. Like we're at our worst, and the hallmark emotion in this space is despair, hopelessness, right? I've done it all. I don't know what to do. I just want out. I'm just, there's no hope here. And when we're in that space, we've got to look at this as an opportunity. There's a cue. And we've got 3 points we want to make about where to look and what to do with that. But that first thing we have to be aware of is hopelessness, because that then drives the communication. When we're stuck in hopelessness as a mindset, that despairing thing, it shows up as annoyance, irritation, prediction of how somebody's going to be, and it's not good. We stop giving the benefit of the doubt. We're snippy, critical, judgmental. We interpret even kind gestures in twisted, sick ways because we're hopeless. And that is the enemy's gotten his arsenal out and he's done his best work when we're in that place. And so we have to recognize that we're in exactly the place he wants us, the enemy. Because then all we can do in hopelessness is take offense. And we're called to not do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think having that awareness, you're right. That's like the first step, because if you're not aware, you're just going to operate out of that. And, it's that back and forth, and which leads to more hopelessness. Yeah. So, so the key is to be aware. That's the first step. And then what do we do next?
Well, after that, there's I like the thoughts of look within and look up. Right. I thought that, you had mentioned that earlier before we started recording, and it's so perfect because, that look within kind of encompasses the be aware piece.
Right.
But it also, looking within means I need to look at myself in terms of, am I even taking care of myself right now at all? Am I exhausted? Am I sick? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I over giving? Have I let people cross my boundaries? Am I missing boundaries in places? And, within myself, what's going on here? I had a situation last week where I guess it was the beginning of this week. It just feels like very long ago. It wasn't, but I'm not my best right now. I've got some physical stuff I'm dealing with. I'm exhausted no matter how much sleep I'm getting. And I've had some relationship challenges. I was on a family vacation, which I love my family, but you cram everybody in a cabin for a week in a minivan, and it's just challenging, right? Everybody's got an opinion and they're all adults, but it was just challenging stuff. And I'm not good with that. That's not a vacation for me. That's work. Right. Yeah. So I felt like I needed to be on it. And so I come back from vacation exhausted, and then I've got this health stuff. I'm not at my best. So this thing happens where somebody at work says something to me. I totally took it personally. It was like, oh my gosh. And I felt like I needed to prove myself in this space. I got defensive, and it's like, what is wrong with you? And so, I actually asked this person, do you think I'm not smart in this place? I mean, I've got 30 years of experience in marketing. Like, how do we not have, ouch, right? Like, that's great leadership there, Nina. No, but, I was kind of snippy with my kids and my husband too. And so the Lord kind of jerked a knot in my tail, lovingly, kindly. That's, I shouldn't use phraseology that sounds so brutal. It was really gentle, actually. And he said, what's going on with you? And I'm like, oh, I haven't even thought of that. Yeah. And so I took a few moments to look within me and listen to him. Yeah. He's like, and he explained to me all the stuff I just told you about what. I was like, oh, yeah. so what do I need to do about that? And I realized I haven't been eating. I've been too busy to eat, which I do when I'm not my best, which is not useful when you have health issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, I teach this stuff, but I got to get back down to the basics. Oh, I'm not even hydrated. Like I misplaced my water bottle on our trip. I can't find the stupid thing. So now I'm not drinking. Like, what kind of sense does that make?
Mm-hmm.
So, but part of my, and I'm talking about this because I had a hopeless thought earlier in the week. It's like, oh my gosh, I felt like a complete failure for a minute. Like it takes about 4 seconds to go from this person said this thing to me, I got defensive, I misinterpreted it to why am I leading? I'm a failure. Spiral down really fast.
Yeah.
I don't do that very often. Like I used to do that a lot, but in
Yeah.
the last 10 years, I've gotten really good at this, but I did that. And I was like, all right, that's old, Nina, that's the old man.
Mm-hmm.
So looking within me meant I need to take care of myself differently. I need to do some things differently and get out of hopelessness because that is not who I am. That's not going to be a piece of this. How's that spew out into your relationships? We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
You get hopeless. Well, he's never going to change. And I'm always going to be this failure. And then that languaging in and of itself, we need to go, wait a minute, what's going on within me that I'm believing lies like that? Because nobody always never does anything, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a thing. So that look within has multiple pieces to it. It's physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's mental. And taking action on those things then starts, you wake up the next day and it's like, oh, I can see clearly now the rain is gone. Did I just sing? I'm sorry for the torture.
Yes. Yes.
All right, that just kind of came out. I shouldn't do that. But there's something to it. So looking within is important.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I don't think that's emphasized enough. I think that a lot of times, we think perseverance, is like an act of the will, meaning you do it in your own strength and you put your mind to it and you just force yourself to do it, when sometimes you really, in order to do that, just need to feed yourself, feed your soul, feed your spirit, self-care, and re-energize yourself so that you can get up again and keep going. Most of the time we're on the floor trying to persevere, and it's like, we really need some help, getting there. So I love that the steps to perseverance involves looking within, because it's not just something we can do in our self-sufficiency. This is, okay, what do I need? It's asking the questions, what do I need in this moment most? And sometimes it's just rest,
Yeah. Or some water.
Or some water. Or some food, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that, but the neat thing is that you don't get that information, at least I don't, without looking up, like you had mentioned earlier. So talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So, I think that if you're like me, you look everywhere but up. You're looking at your circumstance. When you're in that hopeless place, it's that temptation to look at the circumstance, to try to fix the circumstance, to try to change the circumstance. And, oftentimes God is just waiting for us because he's got the answer, and he's just waiting for us to come to him with it. And oftentimes what happens, like you said, that gentle voice, that still small voice, is just waiting for us, to comfort us, to help us with our perspective, with the answer. And if we don't take that step, then eventually you just wear yourself out. If you're like me, you're going to wear yourself out, and you end up miserable, or you end up quitting. That's why I think a lot of times people end up in places where they just give up. And it's because they haven't taken that time to really first look within and then ask God, God, what do you have to say about this situation? And when we do that, it's amazing what we learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I've been a victim in my own head, which I think is where that space, that mindset lives, right? Not that bad things don't happen to us that are out of our control, but there's definitely a mindset that comes along with that. So I've been that. And then I've understood the difference, the contrast between being a victim and taking responsibility. And I don't have the ability to take responsibility, which gives me authority, power, ability to change my circumstance. But I can't do that if I'm wallowing in the hopelessness of victimhood. And the only way to get out of that is to look up, like you said, to ask
Yeah.
him, what do you have to say here about this? I remember really hard time in my marriage, and I was so stuck in victimhood. Like I couldn't see my contribution to what my misery was. I was just totally blind to it. And not that everybody else was perfect in my life. And, I was just so messed up and blind. There's definitely contribution factors outside of me, but I wasn't doing anything useful because I was so stuck in blame.
Yeah.
And that is a cognitive distortion that most people don't know is a cognitive distortion. Blaming somebody else is energy you can expel, you can dispense with that. And yeah, definitely people do bad things. And yeah, we should receive some, validation and some empathy around the hurt that that's caused. But, keep a short account on that and then focus in on taking action and taking responsibility. I love taking responsibility for things because that gives me the authority and power to go do something with it. And when I do that under the leadership and the guidance of the Holy Spirit, on mission for God and the steps that he has, it's not hopeless. So that means that the hot mess of the marriage situation that you have, the conflict, the fight you had just, 2 hours ago or whatever, and you're, feeling all whatever, yes, deal with those emotions, absolutely, but then shift gears out of that. Don't stay stuck there, and take responsibility for, well, what could I have done differently? And 100% of the time when things don't go well, I had a conversation yesterday with somebody, and I went into it knowing I need to apologize for my piece. I need to own the thing that I did that I shouldn't have done. And I need to also call them to a higher level of being by asking for what I want in that space. And I got it half right. I apologized for my thing. And I took responsibility, and then I got a bunch of blame and accusation and all that. And I was just done. I was like, okay, well, yeah, we'll finish this later. I didn't try to, if I was feeling better, I'd probably try to, navigate through that, persevere in the conversation in that moment, but I know where I'm at overall. So I gave myself a pass. And so then I'm walking away from the conversation. I'm going, okay, what could I have done differently there? And the big aha for me was, Nina, you knew this could go south. Was the possibility of the timing of this could have waited like until you actually feel better to have hung in there in the first place. Yeah. So I went, oh, yeah, I was expecting too much of myself too soon. I need rest for a couple more days before I'm going to go try this again. Okay, fair enough. I'm not going to feel bad about that. I'm not going to judge and condemn myself. Whatever, it's a circumstance. And that's the thing that people need to understand, is that these contexts, these circumstances, we blow them up in our heads and become hopeless when we think of the 15 years of hell that we've been in, and the 2,800 times that person has done X, Y, Z, and how they're never going to change, and how we always show up the same way and we do the same things and blah, blah. So we then live in the past, which is not useful for this moment that's right in front of us. And so if we'll slow things down and live now and, look up, look within, and then try to step forward a little more slowly, then, hopefully we'll navigate better next time. It's okay to not get it perfect.
Oh man, say that 100 times. Yeah. And I think that kind of summarizes the last point, which is basically surrender and let go of the outcome, because really we can only control ourselves in the end. We, like you said, have to take responsibility. But what that other person does, that's completely out of our control. So, that actually brings up a question for me in those circumstances where you're persevering, you're doing the things, taking accountability, taking responsibility, and resting and getting the self-care, but that person is stuck. Is there anything we can do in those situations where they're saying, I'm done, you can do all of the things you want to do, but I'm done? Is there anything, is there something to say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's judge them all and send them to hell. How's that?
You're no Christian. Christians don't give up.
Well, yeah. So we're that's our natural go-to, right? Like to retort back with or react with this. Let me slap you in the face verbally. Yeah, and I'm saying that because I've done it. I don't want to though. But one of the most freeing things that we can do is to accept people where they're at. Then I'm not trying to, like there's all these people right now out in Yellowstone National Park that are trying to go pet buffalo. And, it's almost every day that I hear of some stupid tourist that's getting gored by a buffalo. It's like, what is wrong with you people? These are not fluffy cows. Stop it. Why? So yeah, but they keep doing it, keeps happening. It makes the national news every stinking year. And sorry, I'm a little uptight about that one because I'm like, how do you not? But we do this. I do this. I expect this massive person or this relationship or this, whoever I'm dealing with, right, to act a certain way. And they just are not that.
Right.
But I have opinions about how they should be, and they're not that.
Yep.
So I'm trying to pet a fluffy cow. It's not. It's a buffalo. So stop it. Whose fault is that? That's mine. And I know there's no condemnation in Christ Jesus, but at some point I need to stop being stupid and try, because that's what that is. It's insanity. Doing the same thing, getting the same result, and you go back and do the same thing again. I didn't say that right, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do? You just go, okay, all right. They act the way they're going to act. They're ready to quit. I validate that. You know what? That I can't blame you.
Yeah.
And I've I've had conversations with people where I've said, you're right. Maybe this isn't going to work out.
Yeah.
And maybe you and I can't fix this. I think you need to do what is best for you here. I love you. I think we can, but I can't force you to be in that space. And if you're in a space where you need a break or to be done, all right.
Yeah. And then they go, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. And that sounds like a tactic.
Right.
And it is, if you're a salesperson, that's a tactic.
Yeah.
The walk away is
the walk away. Yep.
Yeah. But when you're in a relationship, you can't hold on to people so tightly. You can't try to control them into being the way you want them to be. You've got these people in your life that God's decided how they are.
Yeah.
They're deciding how they are.
Oh, that's rich.
Yeah. Ouch. Right.
Yeah.
So we get to walk with instead of, we're not the potter. Yeah. It's not what I want sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm listening to you going, oh man, I got to level up even more.
Me too. Like the only reason I can even relate to this is because, I get that. We all deal with this. This is normal Christian living. It just is.
But I love what you said about we can still walk with. There's this place where you accept where they are, but you can still love them where they are. And that makes me think of a story about my 4-year-old. She started a new school last year, and I'd say the first 3 months it was rough. We were meeting with the teacher Then we had to meet with the principal, and it was just a challenge because she was in this new environment, and she didn't know anyone, and there were more rules than she was used to, and she wasn't persevering exactly. So the teacher, was getting concerned, and as her mom, we were getting concerned too. So, what ended up happening is she met her where she was, and, she found out what she enjoyed. She found out, what brought her comfort. I remember there was a certain doll she liked to play with in that class. And every time she did what she was supposed to do, she got to play with the doll, and that worked. And then she leveled up to the next toy. And then by the end of the school year, she got an award for most determined and most persevering. I know. I was like, wow, we made it. Mm-hmm. So, but I think that the point is that, you can't make somebody persevere, whether they're 4 or 44 or 84. They have to decide on their own that they're going to do it. And whenever that happens, we praise, we celebrate. But until then, we just love them. We walk with them, and we let them figure it out on their own.
Yep. No, and the smart thing your teacher did there was, no matter where she was at, she validated, she listened, right? She didn't try to force her to be in a different place. And that's, if you want to, want the walk away from today, how do you stay in this? How do you persevere?
Yeah.
You got to go find somebody that will listen to your misery, validate you, meet you where you're at, like Job's friends, sit with, ask for that. And, call up your friend and say, and this is what to say, hey, I need to talk to you for about a half hour. I just need to tell you how awful everything is. I don't want you to argue with me or try to talk me out of it. I want you to agree everybody's bad. I might plan a murder. I want you to agree to help me. I'll be rational tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. And ask for what you need in that department. And then on the other side of it is, when somebody comes to you that's like that, when they've lost their ever loving mind in their misery and they're hopeless, you don't argue with them. You meet them in their hopelessness. Yeah, this is terrible. That should have never happened to you. Can I punch somebody in the face for you? I want to. That's what we need. We need to go ask our friends for that when we're in that hopeless place. And then we need to give it to people. And you know what? If we don't have a friend like that, we need to start making some. And if we can't get a hold of them, God's always ready. Go read Psalms. Man, David was like, kill everyone. Kill them all.
Yes.
Just pour out your vengeance. Wow. Okay. But God can handle it. And we need that. We need it. So part of perseverance is not trying to, is stop stuffing those emotions. Be a good friend to yourself in that space. Look inward, look up, surrender, and hang in there.
I love it. Wow. Well, that concludes our love series. We hope that you learned something, and we hope that you'll check out more of what we have to offer. We have a bunch of episodes on our channel, and on our website, we've also got some other goodies. So if you have time, check us out, greaterimpact.org. Thanks for joining.